in Oregon. It's really great to have everybody here today. Hi also to Kachina and Helen and others who don't have video on, and I'm sorry if I didn't call you all by name. Hello also to everybody out there on Facebook Live. We're glad you're with us too. Welcome to the Washington Rebels Carpe Diem Arts Daily Antidote of Song. And for many of you, you already know we're in here every day at noon, singing one song together, building community, and in a million different ways, trying to work in what seems like a increasingly crazy universe day after day after day. So always a big shout out of thanks to everybody in this community for coming in here and working together to try and create change and make our world a more sensible and better place for everyone. And also a big shout out of thanks to Nico Rossi DeMattis, who is running the tech today. Nico, thank you for being here. And also always a shout out to Colin, who is in this room generally and is taking a much needed week off. And thanks also to Busy Graham, Carpe Diem Arts, and Greg Lewis, Washington Rebels, for all the millions of ways that they also take part in this program. Couple quick announcements. There's a donate link in the chat box. We are having to keep this program going. Well, not having to, well, having to, sort of. We're keeping this program going for a very long time, which we had never anticipated in the beginning. And as we look forward into the virus universe and even beyond, we do want to keep this program going. We know that for a lot of people, this is a great place to meet. So if you're able to help us continue, any donations go directly to the performing artists who lead us in song. So thank you in advance for anything you can do. There is a drop-down menu on the donate page that says Daily Antidote. And if you click that, the funds will go to the program. My email is also in the chat. We take comments, questions, suggestions. And also we have a Daily Antidote email list where we send out every day the artists and the lyrics in advance. So please pop your email into the chat or email me if you'd like to be on the list. And today, for those of you who may have been in the room, oh, maybe it was 3 weeks ago. I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month. We were going to have Nicholas leading us in song, and there was maybe a giant storm, or he was making it up. We'll never know. So Nicholas's power was out, and he was running around in the streets trying to find a place that had power so that he could do his Daily Antidote. And we ended up with Issei jumping in and singing for us. And now we have Nicholas on what he promises is a clear weather day. So we are super happy to have Nicholas Williams of Genticorum, who performed with us in our Quebec Christmas Revels, year of which I'm going to say was, oh dear, I always forget this, 2014 maybe. No, that was Irish. Anyway, Nicholas was in our recent Quebec Christmas Revels, and we got a chance to work with him and Genticorum. It was amazing. And he's brought us a song today that's actually perfectly apropos. Nicholas, welcome. We are very excited to sing with you.
Thank you, Joe. Wow, it's so exciting. I love the opening the floodgates moment where you just like see all these great faces piling in. It's kind of actually the image that came by was when I was a kid and you go out trick or treating for Halloween. You dump all your candy out on the ground when after you get back and you say, "Wow, look at all this stuff." It was kind of that kind of deluge. Great to see you all. I'm looking forward to singing this song for you. It's a song by a really great songwriter. I'm sure a lot of you know him, David Francie, who was a Quebec resident. He's originally from Scotland, lived a long time just down the road from me in Ayers Cliff, Quebec. I'm in Waterville, Quebec, which is about half an hour north of the Vermont border. If you go north from Newport, Vermont, that's where you'll find me. Some of you have been to Waterville, Karen, and it's a great place. It's a real mix of English and French. Historically, a lot of loyalists came up from the States and a lot of draft dodgers. And who knows, maybe we'll get some more of you up here, depending on how the next election goes. I want that's kind of a segue into the theme of this song. Is it's about change and it's about seasonal change, you know, just saying. And I love the cyclical nature of it. David has this amazing talent for writing these simple songs that like this song here, it could easily be a traditional song that's been sung for hundreds of years. And to come up with a song that has that kind of appeal and simplicity is really is not easy, and he just has a great talent for that. So it's a really it's a great song to harmonize with. If you love doing that, go for it. I'll just go over the chorus. Yeah, the chorus goes like this: I took my love down to Summerstown, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by. On the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. How many people here have been on the St. Lawrence River? Give a little wave. It's so for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's what it takes all the water out from the Great Lakes system, and it takes it out to the Atlantic Ocean, and it just gradually opens up, and it's really at the heart of Quebec. In that all the way from Montreal out through Quebec City, it just gets wider and wider, and opens up into the Atlantic. And I had the great opportunity to spend some time on the St. Lawrence this summer, and it's just there's something about the way that it opens up, and the flow that is really it brings you a lot of peace. And so I'm happy to sing this song that has that at its heart. Actually, you know what, I should say, the way the lyrics work. The first verse is kind of different. The chorus actually, it starts with on the banks. So the chorus that repeats after every verse is, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. Let's try singing that all together. I'm actually going to bring it up. I think the best key to do this in would be to, like, a bit higher for tenors, altos, and then the basses can sing lower down. I took on the banks around there, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. So, if any of you high voices might want to try this line, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. And the great thing about Zoom harmonizing is that everyone is in tune all the time perfectly. It's so great. So the verses, simply like the second verse would go, and when we hear the winter turn, and the sound of the blackbirds cry, I'll take my love, and I'll take my love down to Summerstown, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by. Okay, so just to understand the structure of the song, the first verse that starts with "I took my love down to Summerstown" is a little tiny bit of a structure, but it's so simple you'll catch on. Let's just sing it. I took my love down to Summerstown, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. And when we hear the winter turn, and the sound of the blackbirds cry, I'll take my love down to Summerstown, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. And when we see the springtime turn to a cloud in the summer sky, I'll take my love down to Summerstown, On the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide. And when we feel the summer turn on the wind that the leaves will fly, I'll take my love down to Summerstown. On the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie. Sorry, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by. On the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie. On the banks of that river so wide. And when we hear the autumn turn and the northern wind's cold cry, I'll take my love down to Summerstown. On the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide.
Woo! Wow, that is just spectacular. That
Great. And
beautiful.
I encourage you, if you have the chance of being in a bubble with other singers, it's such a great song to harmonize to. It's got this great kind of sea shanty quality where you just want to dig into it and sing together.
We were testing out some harmonies over here. They were really great. That was super fun. I can imagine singing that in a group and hearing all those harmonies. So I saw a lot of people nodding about having been on the St. Lawrence, and actually St. Lawrence is a place that's super, super special to me. And in the context of where we might all go, if it turns out we just have to be not here where we are anymore. My place is actually on the St. Lawrence, a tiny little town about an hour north of Quebec called Petite Rivière Saint-François. And it's right on the St. Lawrence. And the charm that it has is that absolutely nothing ever happens there. It's the most amazing place. And yet it's an hour from Quebec. So you can go in and you can find all of the sort of city experiences. So I'm totally shouting out for everybody to join us up there if it turns out that's where we have to be. And it really is a magical, magical river. And sort of on the notion of change, when you were singing, one of the things that I remembered about being on the St. Lawrence is sitting on Ile Verte. It's this tiny little island right in the middle of and on the backside of the island, there's lots and lots of whales that go by. And if you sit and you listen, you'll see the whales come up and then you'll see them go down. And then there's this amount of time that goes by and then you hear like the sound of the whale in your ear, but it takes that long for the sound to travel across the water. And it's a little bit like change, right? We're working, and we're going to hope that we're going to suddenly see it and feel it happening all around us. So there's the magic of the St. Lawrence and the magic of a song about change and the seasons. Thank you, Nicholas, so much.
Yeah.
What were you doing on the river? You said you spent some time there this summer.
Well, I actually was lucky enough to spend 2 weeks in the Les Îles de la Madeleine this summer, the Magdalen Islands, which are way out. You might look at it on the map and say, well, that's in the Atlantic, but they refer to it as the St. Lawrence Basin. So it's kind of not as far as Newfoundland, but going in that direction, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's just an incredible, magical spot. The islands themselves are actually they're on salt, like they're big salt mines there, and don't know all the details, but the formation, like the land formation, is such an anomaly for that whole area there. There's something very unique geologically there. But it's this incredible culture. It's Anglophone and Francophone. There's a string of 5 or 6 islands that are strung together by these long sand dunes, and it's an incredibly vibrant place that just they live off of the sea there. Recommend it to anyone. And we on our way out, actually, I was mentioning Karen before. She was on our Village Harmony Quebec camp last summer. So we spent a lot of time on the St. Lawrence, and stops in Kamouraska and Quebec City. And what I love about it is just, yeah, how it evolves, and takes you from this kind of the heartland, agricultural heartland of Quebec, and out towards the maritime part of it, and it transforms on your way out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Nicholas. So I was actually just reading the chat to see if there were questions or comments, and I actually wasn't sure if you just said this, that those islands are the ones that are still owned by France, or
No, no, that's
no?
those are different ones. That's Saint Pierre and Miquelon,
Yeah,
which
okay,
are just south of Newfoundland.
that's
Yeah,
right. Where they still use French currency,
yeah,
and where the French language, if I sort of understand it right, the French language in Quebec may be closer to what French sounded like longer ago. It evolved in Europe based on more European influence, and in Quebec it evolved a little less based on a lot of other influences because it was a little more isolated. But on Miquelon, is that what it's called? Saint
yeah. There's
Pierre.
two islands. There's Saint Pierre and Miquelon. Yeah,
And I remember reading something about the French language there being also sort of its own uh, iteration of language, as you see it evolve in different places with different influences. And
yeah. I'm
I've
sure.
always thought that would be a neat place to go, except I hear that it rains constantly. So
Could be.
maybe,
You know what?
maybe
If we have on a future date, there's this really gorgeous song that's set there that I could teach you. Le Gravier de Terre-Neuve. That's a beautiful kind of they call it complaint in Quebec, like a lament, or about talks about the young men who were sent, from France to help with the cod fishing industry there. But there were these young men that were called gravier. They slept out on the gravelly shores, and they had nothing to eat but cod's head soup. And it's very rich imagery in that song. So
wow. Well, yes, thank you. We take you up on that, and we will definitely make a plan for you to come back. We'll have to look for when the holiday of codfish heads is, and that's when
yeah.
we'll bring you in. So, all right. In the chat, there are some nice compliments for Nicholas, which we will send to you, so that you can see all the nice things people said. And I will also just say that Bonnie threw in a very lovely, we will know that things are getting better when Canada can let us come visit again. So I will put a thumbs up on that too. We'll know when things are better, when we all start seeing each other in person, and when we all can travel around and be more of the world again in so many ways. So thanks everybody for being here today. And Nicholas, sort of in keeping with tradition, would you be willing to give us a verse of it again so that we have it back in our heads before we leave?
Sure, for sure.
Thank you.
I took my love down to Summerstown, on the banks of the Seaway where the big ships go by. On the banks of the St. Lawrence River we lie, on the banks of that river so wide.
Thank you so much. Let's all give Nicholas a big hand. Thank you so much for bringing us a beautiful song, good thought about the seasons, and good thought about change. For anyone who was in the room yesterday with Emma's Revolution, I did add into today's email a lot of the links for places you can go to do things, well, not go, but go, to do things to help with voting in the US right now. And if you're not on the list and you're interested in links, just send me an email and I'll send you the links from yesterday. Some that Emma's Revolution suggested, and some that all of us. Oh, and they're in the chat right now, Nico says. Thank you. And some that came from the room. And so thanks again to everybody in this room for being such an incredibly vibrant part of this incredibly, amazingly strong community. And thanks again to Nicholas Williams. We are so happy to have had you back again, and we cannot wait to sing that next song with you again soon. And I'm going to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook Live. Thank you so, so much for being here again today. And to everybody in the room, thank you, thank you, thank you. Goodbye, Alan. Goodbye, Deborah, Karen, Kathleen, Dion.